What is needed to heal our world? A vaccine? An election? Another protest? Or simply to move on with life? These solutions pale in comparison to Jesus' solution in the gospel. Forgive each other from the heart. We see so much anger, but where does it come from? In psychology, anger is a secondary emotion, driven by another emotion, such as sadness, feeling hurt, or even fear. Ironically, fear and anger are related to our deep need for control and arise from conflict or regret. We can see the intersection of fear and anger in the crucifixion. Jesus modeled the solution. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. To forgive, we must understand fear and anger. There is a good type of fear called filial fear. This is the fear that a child has of disappointing the love and aspirations of their parents. It is really a sense of reverence and respect. There is also an unhealthy fear called psychological fear. This arises when we fail to live out of respect and reverence for what God aspires us to be. Bishop Robert Barron said, "Your life is not about you." Why? St. Paul answered in our second reading, "None of us lives for oneself, for if we live for the Lord." When we stop living for the Lord, or practicing this filial fear of disappointing God our Father, then we experience an unhealthy fear of each other. St. John wrote, "Perfect love drives out fear." In other words, when we direct our love, pursuits, and energies at God, we live in harmony with each other. When our love is misdirected at selfish and temporary pursuits, such as power, pleasure, honor, or wealth, we fear losing them and get angry with each other. Our anger, arising from psychological fear, is a sign that we are losing our way of life or our control of it. For St. Augustine wrote, "A man fears because something that he loves is in danger." But our fear and anger are misplaced. This world is passing away. Jesus said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and decay destroy and thieves break in and steal. But store up treasure in heaven, for where your treasure is, there also will your heart be." Again, perfect love or filial fear are aimed at living for God. Psychological fear and anger are about living for ourselves and loving temporary things. We are all guilty of anger arising from fear. Therefore, we need to ask for forgiveness and freely give it. Anger's effect on our soul, said St. John of the Ladder, keeps alive sin, hates justice, ruins virtue, poisons the heart, rots the mind, defeats concentration, paralyzes prayer, puts love at a distance, and is a nail driven into the soul. On the other hand, here are the benefits of forgiveness. Forgiveness can evangelize the hardest of hearts. Before his conversion, St. Paul held the cloaks of those who stoned the deacon named St. Stephen. His conversion began with Stephen's last words, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." Forgiveness can preserve Christianity. If St. Patrick had not forgiven the Irish people for kidnapping and enslaving him, he would never have returned as a bishop to convert them. When Christianity diminished in Europe hundreds of years after Patrick, missionaries from Ireland came to re-evangelize. Forgiveness can heal the worst of wounds. St. Maria Goretti was 12 years old when she fought off a rapist named Alessandro. In his rage, he stabbed her repeatedly, but before she died, she extended her forgiveness. Alessandro, after serving his prison sentence, attended Maria's canonization mass in Rome, standing right alongside Maria's mother. Forgiveness can save souls. St. Vincent Pallotti went to the deathbed of a sworn church enemy, seeking to hear the man's confession. When the man began cursing him, Father Vincent jammed a cookie in his mouth. As the man chewed, Father Vincent explained the urgency of repentance. After a few more cookies, the man was reconciled to the church. Forgiveness makes us godly. For St. Faustina Kowalska said, "We resemble God most when we forgive our neighbors." Forgiveness doesn't mean that we approve of bad behavior, nor does it limit justice. St. John Paul II was shot twice by Mehmet Ali Akka. After recovering, the Pope heard Mehmet's confession and forgave him, but Mehmet still served 19 years in prison. The final benefit to forgiveness is that we can ask Jesus to forgive them when we cannot. When we have been hurt, it may be next to impossible to muster the words, "I forgive you." But we can allow ourselves to be eclipsed by Jesus' forgiveness from the cross. For forgiveness means we want others to become who God created them to be, or to live that healthy filial fear. For St. Augustine said, "If you are suffering from a bad man's injustice, forgive him, lest there be two bad men."